Hey, what's up everyone? Today we're gonna do this. Alright, so for this one we're gonna use two different softwares, Premiere Pro and After Effects. So go to the description of the video and download the assets that you're gonna need for this one. And let's get started. Okay, so now that we are in Premiere, so what I did was I played a little bit with the sounds that you'll have in your project file, and I used a little bit of pieces here and there from each sound. The way I created this was, as I was browsing through the sounds, I kinda was having an idea of what I like and what I don't. So I was picking all these audios, and then from there what I do is I bring each one in and then I start just playing around with them, making them smaller here, probably copying this again here, and so on. But obviously that's time consuming, and you might not like the result after a couple minutes, or you might. That's really up to you. So this is what I came up with, and this is the result of what we are going to be working with. Okay, so in this case, I start working with audio so I can have an idea of now the visuals that I want to have. And in this case, I want to know that I want to start working with the drop here. So I'm going to start right here. Right here, I'm going to start by pressing Control-I. In the folder that I'm providing, in the file section, you go to Metal Me Red folder, and in here, you go to Footage, Metal Me Layers, and you'll find a Photoshop document. And once you select that to import, After Effects is going to ask you how do you want to bring that in. So I'm going to set it up to composition and merge layer styles into footage because I know there's no layer styles. And right away, this creates a composition with all the layers inside of that Photoshop document and in the order that you have them. At this point, the composition is already created, and if I go to composition settings, the composition itself inherits the canvas size from Photoshop, which in this case was 1920 by 1080, and After Effects is keeping the last frame rate used, which was 24 frames per second, and also the time, which is 10 seconds. And I'm gonna keep that for now. I'm gonna hit OK. So those are the composition settings, 24 frames per second, and also HD 1920. Okay, so let's start working with this, and I'm gonna select all my layers. First thing I'm going to do is make them 3D. From here, let's go to views horizontal, and we're gonna work with this first layer, which is a fog layer, and I'm gonna bring it probably in between of the center point and the end of this canvas size. And I'm gonna do the same, well, this one, the background, I'm gonna move it all the way to the background right here. And as I'm moving it, you'll see on the right side that the scaling needs to be adjusted. So the scaling is not fitting anymore inside my canvas. So I'm gonna press S on my keyboard to change the scale, and I'm gonna bring this up right about there. And you probably want to bump these up values depending on how you're using your image, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. But okay, so now let's go with the fog, and then the fog also we're gonna move it around halfway. S on the keyboard, scale that up, and I'm gonna move those down. So at this point we are left with these three layers, which make this image of myself. And I'm gonna move these slightly, not that much, just a little bit in space, like so. Okay. Now I'm gonna go back to this one layer and I'm gonna go to layer, new, camera, 35 millimeters. I'm gonna hit OK, and you'll see that the perspective of the image changes right away. So if I hit C on my keyboard to activate my camera tool, you'll see that I can orbit in 3D space now with this. Okay. So I'm gonna go camera, reset, so I can set that position there. At this point, I'm gonna go to layer, new, light, point light, 200, blue, that's okay. And I could probably play with this light type, and you might want to play with those depending on the look that you're going for. It's always good to play around with the settings. You might get something that you don't know you are expecting, but it's there. At this point, I'm also gonna select cast shadows, and I'm gonna hit OK. So the light right there is automatically created, and I'm gonna change the position of this a little bit. I'm gonna go to 2 views, horizontal, and you'll see that the light is kind of all the way to the front. So I'm gonna move it slightly there, and you'll see that the light starts kind of to fade a little bit down. And if I move it back, you'll see that the layers in front of it won't be affected. So I'm gonna leave it around there. I'm gonna go back to my one view and then Alt / to expand my viewer as much as possible. And I'm gonna make it a little bigger. Okay, now if I go to light options and I'm gonna select a smooth fall off, you'll see that right away it's only affecting those areas that are close to this to the light, right? So that would be the 3 layers that make the figure and the fog in the front. So if I change the radius or play with these settings, you'll see that I'm gonna start to get a different look every time. So I'm gonna leave it like that for now. So I'm gonna go again to the first layer, and then at this point press Ctrl Y, create a new solid, and I'm gonna call this one Particular, and I'm gonna hit OK. I'm gonna come to my effects and presets, RG Trapcode Particular, and let's make this really quick. Emitter continuous, let's put 200. Instead of a point, it's gonna be a box, and the emitter size XYZ individual, and we are gonna change this bigger. We're gonna make this emitter size and also the Y much bigger. There we go, something like that. Now I'm gonna go to 2 views, horizontal, and I'm gonna move this. First, I'm gonna make the space in Z less. I'm gonna go back to 100 particles per second, and I'm gonna come down to, well, let's bump that up back to 500. So we have that space. Okay. Now, I'm going to go back to the one view so I can see a little bit more. Control Shift H to hide the masks and the layer info and like edges and so on. Control Shift H because I want to see the look now. And first thing, I'm gonna go to particle, live random. I'm gonna go for 100%, live 6 seconds, and we're gonna go to size over life and change this preset to that. Same thing for opacity over life. Opacity over life. We want them to appear and fade out. And then the color, we can leave them in white. And now we're gonna go to, actually, I'm gonna turn off all the other layers so I can work faster with this. Because I'm gonna go to physics and -10 on the gravity. And okay, that's not bad. But we have to change the velocity of the emitter. Okay, that's a little better. And at this point you can see that the emitter emission is coming a little bit high on the canvas. So, well, I won't play with that one just yet, but I will go to the size of the particle, and I'm going to change this to 3, and the size random, let's go to 100. So now I'm going to turn off my shading, and at this point we're going to need a light. So once that light is turned on and I've hit space, you'll see that actually I'm going to move the layer left. So it actually starts way sooner and I don't have to wait for that. And you can see how that's looking so far. Let's turn on the rest of the layers and also my camera. Well, let's actually hide these for now. Okay, so we have that. And we can play with this light setting in case we actually wanted to have more light. But at this point, no, I was liking that kind of setting so far, the 250 amount. You can see some particles look dark, some other ones don't. So at this point, now it's time to switch to 2 horizontal. On the particular, I'm going to turn off shading for now so I can see all the particles. And I'm going to come to world transform, press Control D to duplicate that layer. And in the world transform, I'm going to move this forward in C space. Somewhere around there. And I'm going to hide that layer. I'm going to select the second one, and I'm going to do the opposite, which is move that back in C space around there. And now this one, you can see right away that the emitter size is now inside the canvas. So I can also lower the world position, but I have to make the emitter bigger on the x-axis as in the y. Just bump these up right there. Okay, and I'm gonna go back to the shading, turn that one on, and I'm gonna move this one back in that order because it was in the front, so you can see all the black particles in the front of those layers. So I'm moving it back, and I'm turning this one layer on as well, and the shading on as well. So we have that. Okay. So now that that's done, I'm gonna press Control I. I'm gonna bring in my new logo, and I'm gonna bring it into my composition, and I'm also gonna solo that out really quick. and I want to see the transparency of my canvas. I'm gonna press S on my keyboard to scale this down. I think right there is fine, and I am gonna pre-compose this, move all attributes, and then hit OK. So at this point I have some alpha information in my canvas. So if I go to layer, auto trace, and I just select the default settings and I hit OK, and I press Control Shift H to bring back my masks, you'll see that all the masks are generated around my logo. So at this point, if I go to Video Copilot, Saber, double click it, and again, Control Shift H to hide my masks one more time. Now I come to Saber, customize core, core type, Saber, from Saber to layer masks, and it's gonna blow up, of course, because the core size needs to be turned down a little bit. Right there. Well, maybe 0.35. Okay. So at this point, what Saber has done is taken the mask generated by After Effects, this layer auto trace, and build an effect around those masks. So if I go to my preset and I change it to arc reactor, you'll see that the change is drastic right away, and I can start playing with all these, right? But I know what I like so far, and I'm gonna go to arc reactor. If I press 0.5, I'm gonna start to get a, play with the settings so you can get a look that you want. Again, this also is gonna vary depending on your logo and so on. So, yeah, think about that once you're bringing your logo in, test a few things, and you'll find what you like. So I'm gonna press Control D to duplicate that layer, and I'm also gonna change the type from arc reactor to sap. Yes, and I'm also gonna bring the core size down like that. So Saber sucks up my processing time. I'm gonna go to the second layer and I customize core. Actually, in the distortion, core distortion amount, I'm gonna bring this down to maybe like 5. And also the glow distortion, about 9. So I have that. And once I go back to my full look, and if I press Control D on this one more time and I change this again to something different, and core size 0.1, you'll see that I start getting different looks all over. However, this and look, even if I just leave the logo on top of that, that looks pretty sick. So this first logo, it's working on the composition, on the render settings. I have to change this composition settings from black to transparent so we can actually see both effects running at the same time. And also this one, from render settings from black to transparent. And that way, once we turn on all our other layers, that works like that. Okay. Control Shift H, and I'm gonna bring these down a little bit. I'll probably scale this up around there. Okay. So now that that's done, In the project file, press Ctrl-I one more time, and let's find that folder with the files that you're getting. And I think it's on their minimum footage. Okay, this is Puffy Smoke. So this is a very cool file with just pretty much just some smoke on it. And I'm gonna move this. I'm gonna start the time pretty fast, or around there. But I'm also gonna scale this up more. And press Ctrl-T, and then I'm gonna switch this to 25. I'm gonna do the toggle switches, and I'm gonna change this to from a screen. And I think if I press Alt, let me see. Okay, if I press Shift and negative or Shift and plus, the blending mode will change. You'll start playing, you'll see the difference. So it'll go down or up and so on. Okay, so in this place, I'm gonna leave it in Add, and I'm also gonna toggle switch 3D. But in this one, material options, I'm gonna hit accept lights off, so I don't have to worry about being it too dark now. And one more time, Ctrl-D, and I'm gonna move this one to the back as well. But I'm gonna change my view so I can move this one back in C space right there, and also the first layer from but this back one is gonna need some work, I think. Oh no, it's pretty big. So if I go to 1, actually might need some work, but it's also gonna need some change in the time. All right, so Alt / to bring that up, Ctrl-Shift-H to hide my layers, and I have that look. That looks pretty cool so far. I could probably move these down. But if I turn these into 3D layers also, you'll see that they kind of inherit the info from the color and so on from the light. So I'm going to turn off accept lights off. I think it works on both of them. Let me see. Accept lights off, yes. So the lights are off. But since they are in 3D space, but they are right in the middle, they are behind the head. Now that that's done, I'm gonna press Ctrl-S, and then I'm gonna save this file under presets. No, intro project effects, and I'm gonna hit save. So the reason why I'm doing that is because this composition, which is the Metal Me composition, I'm gonna send it to Premiere, and in Premiere, once it's in here, I will bring it right there. And that is how it's looking. Well, actually, I think I have to, let's see, T25, maybe we can bring this one to 15. How about this one, T10? No, 15 as well, it's fine. All right, Control-S, and now we have that. All right. Okay. So at this point, we pretty much have this, the new logo file. So if I press Control Y, if I go to composition, new composition, and I'm gonna name this logo, and I'm gonna make this one 0.5 seconds, and I'm just gonna hit OK. I'm gonna go to this, the first composition that I did. I'm gonna select the 2 logo comps with the Saber effect, press Control C, go to logo composition, Control V to paste them. I'm gonna turn off the transparency, and once I brought those in, it had the same position from this composition. So if you press Control Alt and F, it centers everything. So from here, what I can do is pretty much, let's see, I could play with these. 0.2. Well, I'm not liking that color. Yeah. So, well, in action, I could come here and, well, I'll show you that on the next one. So I'm gonna press Control S. Well, yeah, press Control S one more time, and then I'm gonna select this logo comp, bring it to Premiere, drop it in, and drop this one in as well. And I'm gonna start playing with this one. Let's see, position that one right there, and then one more time right there. So this is just an idea, okay? Now one more time, After Effects, Control Y, composition, new composition, and I'm gonna name this one Triangle. Hit OK. I am going to go to the Shape tool, select the Start tool, do that, create in order to create the star in alignment, you just hold down Shift. So what I want to do is also want to snap this to the center of my canvas, and to do that I press Control Y, make a new layer, that's a black, bring that back, and well, I'm going to solo this layer down, and I'm going to change the center pivot with the anchor point tool, which is Y, and that's just going to center that in the shape layer. So at this point I want to center this shape layer into my canvas, right? So now I can delete the black solid, and the contents of this polystar, it will have a option for, let's see, okay, in the polypath type, the polystar path 1, if I hit to the points, I'm going to switch it to 3, I'm going to have a triangle, and I think that the shape layer already has a fill. The polystar has a fill layer. Yes, it does. So that's good, because at this point we want to right click, pre-compose, because I don't know if it's, yeah, and same thing, hit OK, and I'm gonna go to layer, auto trace, and just hit OK. Gonna make a trace around the triangle. Now I'm gonna come to the logo comp, select that composition, copy Saber, and then just paste it there, and Saber will inherit that information, and it will just create a that effect around the new shape. So if I change the core size to 1, you'll get that new effect. Control S, I'm gonna go to project, and this triangle comp, bring it in as well, and I'm going to start playing with this. Obviously here you might want to play with them more, you know, try a few different things. So, but this is just for you to get a general idea. So at this point, I have all these spaces already, right, covered. Obviously, my first intro had a lot of cuts, and it took a lot of edit, I think, because there was just so many cuts. But what I would do here is in these empty spaces, I'm going to press Control I, and if I go to, oh yeah, I have 2 files included here. I'm going to bring these in, and these are going to be in a new bin, new folder, and I'm going to name this footage. Well, actually, no. And put those in there, and then bring those, oh damn, I think these have audio. So I'm gonna delete the audio. I think there's a way to just bring those files in, but I don't remember how right now. But just for you to have an idea. Bring in that file. And like so. So this was just a pretty quick edit, right? But this is what it looks like. So now at this point, what I would do is go into the WAV files, and for example here, I would do a chop here, here, another one here, and try to keep it going with the flow of the audio, another chop here, and so on. And in my first intro, it's just a triangle with a different effect. So you can try that. But this is the general look. Okay, so I'm gonna play with this, and I'm gonna bring a little more assets, and I'll see how that looks. Alright everyone, that's it for this one. I hope you guys liked it and maybe learned something from it. I'll see you in the next one.